Okay. I just realized, Ben, you're not going to know exactly when to start it. It'll be at 17:15.
17:15.
17:15. Mm-hmm.
Paul Goody.
Ben Lawrence, welcome to episode 401. So, just so that you know, Ben, the first 16 minutes of the podcast that I thought that I was starting happened an hour before we were actually supposed to meet.
Yeah.
I don't talk about work that much, but work is on the East Coast, so I have all of my clocks down here set an hour ahead. And for whatever reason, I just forgot. And so I started the podcast.
I mean, normally I am pretty on top of my communications. Like I am, where's that button? I see my texts, I see my emails the instant they come in, usually when I'm sitting at my desk. But I didn't this time when you had joined an hour early, and I didn't get your text either. And that's because I was taking a nap. I thought I'd get a little siesta in before we did the show. And then what happens when I slowly climb out of that, I see not just texts and emails from you, but also from Steven, because you had questioned him if he knew of my whereabouts.
I was like, oh no, I hope Ben's okay. He normally isn't. I mean, I'm late all the time, but he normally isn't. I hope everything's all right. No. I learned the origin of the term disco nap.
Disco nap? What's the origin?
Well, it's what one might expect, but something that I wasn't tracking, which is that in the time when people would go out dancing to discos, you would take a disco nap, usually from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m.
So that's a hell of a nap. But that's so you can stay awake later and dance at the discotheque?
Yeah. 2 hours, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. They do say, quote unquote, that if you're going to take a nap, you shouldn't actually nap more than, they suggest 15 minutes, which is too little.
Whoever they
for
are.
A disco nap. Yeah.
Steven asks, despite being an hour early, you're eating?
I'm eating chicken. I had to go to the store right after this. And so I won't have time to eat. I'm very hungry.
Were you also
what normally happens.
Eating for the past? Were you also eating during the past hour as well?
No, I was washing dishes.
Saved it. Oh, okay.
I can't wash the dishes and eat at the same time. I mean, I could.
You can't wash dishes and do the podcast at the same time.
Right.
I mean, you could, but ew.
I really shouldn't be eating and doing the podcast at the same time either.
Yes, Jennifer would yell at you, but she no longer listens, so...
Exactly. No one listens. And here we go. So
Steven is here.
Oh, my gosh. Steven is today part of the podcast. As he noted. He's been brought in. He's part of the narrative.
Yeah.
I explained the podcast to somebody else today.
You're doing marketing?
Into this. Anti-marketing. They said, "Oh, you do a podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah, don't worry about it.
Don't listen." Yeah, it's
not
nothing
for you. It's for people hundreds of years from now.
Are you planning on living 100 years from now? I don't think so.
And here's the thing: the person I was describing this to said, if there were a podcast that was audio recordings from 100 years ago, I'd listen to that. I'm like, exactly.
What was life like in 1923?
Well, we can find out. But what was like in 1723?
Ah,
That's the
yeah.
thing. I mean, we could still understand them when they spoke and all that, but it'd be crazy. We'd be like,
You,
listen to these guys.
you'd have to go pretty far back before English was not unintelligible to modern ears, not to their
Hmm.
ears, but
I think I've asked you this before, but have you heard of? I think it's called Anglish.
English.
Hmm.
I have not heard of English.
It's English with only Anglo-Saxon words, none of the French and stuff.
Ah,
There's a guy. I think it was Frederick Pohl, Pou. I might be, or maybe it's Anderson Pohl. But I think it's Frederick. But the science fiction author um, hypothesized of what it would be like, and he wrote a little story about it, or a little story in it, and then other people took off. There's a problem with it, of course, which is that there. And I'm not going to get into who, Ben, but I think you're going to be able to guess. There's a certain subculture of people who would love nothing more than to take all the foreigners out of English. And so you got to be careful when you're looking into it. Hey, speaking about being careful when looking into it,
oh my god.
guns. No,
I was
watched.
just yeah.
Sorry.
My mind immediately went my butthole.
Yeah. One has to be extremely careful when looking into one's own butthole. Never mind someone else's. So no, I watched Fall of the House of Usher.
Oh
Watched
yeah,
it all the way through.
I finished
Did you
that
watch
too.
it?
Yeah, I did.
And the guy played by Mark Hamill, Pym,
Yeah,
talks
Toth.
about how. What's that?
General. He's a very like Toth character from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He was a guy that got his hand burned by the medallion.
So he talked about how he was doing something for 70 years, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, can you imagine Mark Hamill playing it? Mark Hamill's 72. I didn't realize that he was that old, but he is. And why wouldn't he be?
Looks good for being 72.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. But his character, I looked into it a little bit, is based that he's named after, and some of his story is based on the only novel that Edgar Allan Poe, the only full novel that Edgar Allan Poe wrote.
Okay.
And in the end of that novel, they go to the North Pole, and it's warm at the North Pole,
Okay.
and there's this fog that rolls in, and then this mysterious figure in white, or with like pale white skin that shows up.
And that man
then
was Abraham Lincoln.
And then it ends, Ben. And then that's it.
So what? He meets God or Santa Claus?
or the member of from the Hollow Earth, any of that stuff. So in the end, spoilers for Fall of the House of Usher. In the end, when the main lady guy person,
The main lady guy?
the main villain, yes.
Yes.
So that's what I was looking for.
Carla Gugino or Gugino, or however you pronounce her last name.
Yeah. Says, "You saw me on that ice," to him.
Ah.
It's kind of a reference to that, I think.
Gotcha.
But yeah, the Hollow Earth has been a thing for a while. People have been talking about it. I don't necessarily believe it, Ben. But
No.
it's a fun idea.
With lizard people traveling through the earth to infiltrate
Oh,
politics and society?
Well, the lizard people maybe don't live in the Hollow Earth. They just live in the tunnels between Seattle and where was it?
I don't know.
D'Artagnan. D'Artagnan was a guy who was on Spin the Bottle before us, I think, and he had a little thing that he read about the lizard people.
Ah, yes. I think due to his a story from his time working at a public access television station, I believe.
Yes, that's correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He
Midnight Meat Train.
Midnight Meat Train.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. Yeah, Midnight Meat Train is a movie that's based on the whole lizard people thing. Bradley Cooper. Oh, spoilers for Midnight Meat Train. Bradley Cooper plays a guy who follows Vinnie Jones. As Vinnie Jones delivers meat. And it turns out that he's delivering meat to the lizard people. And then Bradley Cooper becomes the guy who delivers meat to the lizard people.
What, the lizard people can't get their own meat? Come on.
Yeah, I know. Kind of crazy, right? But apparently they can't. And
Whatever.
They're animalistic.
It's keeping
No, but you were going to say
people in jobs. Oh, I was going to say that D'Artagnan has he went down a dark path near the beginning of the pandemic. Yeah, he very conspiratorial, ranging into MAGA territory.
Wow.
Pissed off a lot of old Seattle friends. I don't think he lives here anymore, but I know a lot of people who just were what unfriended him on all the social medias, and it was like, what happened to that guy?
Wow. Well, I think he got a little bit more famous. Little bit more. I think he lived in California, I want to say. I think he went to Los Angeles or something.
Probably.
And wow, that's too bad. But the other thing is I seem to remember that he got stronger, like he worked out or something. And that happens to people sometimes, like Joe Piscopo. Once you start working out, you start getting weird. So,
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Strange. I know that he would sometimes do live pranks, I want to say, that he videotaped. I'm just trying to remember. I followed him on something. Maybe it was Vine. I don't think it was TikTok, but maybe it was Vine or Twitter. Whatever.
Yeah. When you were on those channels.
I think I want to say that maybe I left Twitter before the pandemic. Was that true?
I don't know. Is it?
Maybe.
Yes. No. You were on and off Twitter for a while. But I believe you definitely did.
I left
leave.
Twitter when Elon Musk bought it. I remember that distinctly. Yeah. I think that I quit it several times, but that was the time that I finally but not when he for sure bought it, when he was gonna buy it. Whatever that was.
Before he was forced to follow through with
exactly, yes.
His threats to purchase Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know when that was. That was a while back. Hey Ben, only a half hour more to go. You get to leave early today.
Oh, we're keeping it's not going to be an hour and 16. It's just going to be a full hour.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we could do an hour 60 if you want to, but come on.
No, I got I can get 15 minutes back of my day.
Yeah, exactly.
Need to do some store shopping. My grocery store is closing. I started shopping at the downtown PCC. There's a PCC on 4th Avenue, which is not really on my way home, but it's closer to home than the QFC up here on Broadway. And I'm gonna start being conscious about my groceries now. It's more expensive. It's rare when I walk out of there and don't drop $50 for a single meal. But I can feel better about the groceries that I'm buying, and they're closing it. I got an email. I even joined the co-op and everything. I got an email saying that store is underperforming, And I'm not surprised. That's actually one of the things I enjoyed about shopping there. And that is that it was always just super empty, and nobody was in my way getting it, to get things. Because that's
I
like,
thought a lifetime membership, sorry, go ahead.
I
Sorry.
shop at other places, and just there's like the QFC up here in Capitol Hill. People just have no spatial awareness about themselves.
Yeah. I joined the co-op at Madison Market for life, and then I moved. I still think about that.
Well, the thing I don't feel so bad about joining the PCC because it was a one-time fee of $60, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
no, that's the same. That's the same thing here. It was a one-time fee of
Yeah.
something. So, or the same thing at Madison Market. Not here. There's nothing here.
Do you have
like
any
that.
co-ops around your place?
No. That would require actual cooperation between people. And that does happen. I mean, they're like the band boosters and things like that. People do cooperate with each other. It is funny that Jennifer tries to do the band boosting, and then they don't have her
Band boosting.
band boosting for the band, the marching band stuff.
Yeah, gotcha.
But yeah, they always cancel her shifts for some reason. So
Really?
that's something. Yeah. I will talk to you at some point in time about the yearbook. Betty has a yearbook ad, but I'm not going to say anything about it until it actually happens, because there's a chance, however slim, that she would find out about it. Because the parents get the ads for the children.
Right. My
idea.
parents did that for me when I was a senior in high school. My parents bought space in my senior yearbook and put a baby picture of me on it.
Yeah, we didn't do that. We had planned on doing that, and then we had another idea, which is 10 times better.
So Steven says he's a lifetime member at PCC. His number is so short, some checkers do a double take. I don't even know what my number is. I just have the card in my wallet and I scan it, or I put my phone number in.
Oh, hey, you mentioned something, and every once in a while, news about Seattle makes its way here. Whenever people are tired about talking about how bad Chicago is, they bring up Seattle as an example.
Of course, because it's an Antifa hellscape out here.
Exactly.
Don't you know?
I was actually going to use the term hellscape, which is funny. That's what they said. Can you imagine, Ben, all the people that are camping out by the bus stops and whatever.
Say what you say, and then I'm going to mention this new apartment building that's opening up now down the street from my house.
Okay, so the basic thing that happened with this is that somebody posted a thing about how they're closing all the Targets in Seattle because too many people are stealing from them.
Yeah.
And I just, I said, okay, well, that's possible. But have you ever thought about the other reason they're closing them is that Seattle is very expensive. And I don't know if they actually do enough business to warrant that, at least that one downtown location that they had.
So,
because you were talking about PCC underperforming. That's what I was thinking about.
When the announcement came out that PCC is closing that store because it's underperforming, everybody was like, that's what Target should have said. So they're not. Target isn't closing every store in Seattle. They're closing 2, right?
Exactly.
And they're closing 2 of the smaller stores. The downtown one is staying open. You would think that would be the most crime-ridden one. They have the liquor in a windowed space in the front, for Pete's sake, and those windows get broken all the time. No, they're closing 2 stores, and they're closing those 2 stores because they are underperforming. But Target's trying to save face and say they're closing it because of crime.
Wow, that's
I haven't
crazy.
heard this. So maybe they're doing what Starbucks did when Starbucks claimed crime reasons for closing a couple of their stores. And the actual reason Starbucks closed those stores is because the workers were unionizing.
Oh, yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. Here's something. And, Ben, let's wade into the Middle East and Israel conflict. Why not? We might as well. There's no problem. No, I have one very small thing to talk about, and I think it's fine. There's not going to be any problem with me mentioning this. There is a news article that I read that came out in USA Today. This is what made me think about it when you were like crime, you know, they should have
Crime.
just said it was underperforming. Um,
Yeah. No shame in that.
Israel released information, and the United States government agreed that there's some sort of drug. I'm not even going to say the name of the drug. I don't want to advertise it. It's some sort of, you know, stimulant kind of thing. And that maybe the reason they say the Hamas attacks were so violent is because they were on this drug.
Oh, for real?
And then in the article, the
drugs are
they
bad,
say
y'all.
the Israeli government did not want to advertise the fact that they were on drugs because the real issue is with the ideology. And to that I say, oh, because one of the things they said was they found these pills on the bodies of the people who committed these acts, so on and so forth.
Okay.
So here's my thing.
Yeah.
If I'm a police officer, I'm not saying that Israel is the police in this situation. Like I'm not they are not an authority figure that's dealing with a criminal. These are two, different groups of people. If I were a police officer, I said the fact that the guy that I shot was on drugs, I really didn't want to mention it because I just wanted to let you know that he did a crime, and that's the real problem. You're saying something to color public opinion and saying that you didn't want to say it. You're still giving that information out. Well, we didn't want to say that they were so high on drugs that they were super violent.
Yeah.
Because that would take away from the message that they're bad people. I think that's all. The way that the USA Today article was written was like crazy, in my opinion.
USA Today, you say?
Yes. So who knows? But it's a very complicated thing. Whatever. I saw Divine Intervention with Brett Fetzer a long time ago, which is a great movie. If you want to get a perspective, I think I mentioned this already, a perspective on what things are like in the region, because it's a guy who I think is Greek Orthodox who lives in Israel, and like, it's really, all I can say is it's really good. It gives you an idea of what the I did talk about it on the podcast already. It's worth it to take a look at. Please do, if you will. He's a
I've not watched
conscientious filmmaker.
I've not watched any of these, but YouTube is constantly trying to get me to watch like Vice art videos or other creators that basically summarize in 10 minutes or less the Israeli-Palestine conflict, how the Gaza Strip came to be and all, and like basically just like shortening the very complex history of the region to a bite-sized American audience.
And that's something that basically what Divine Intervention does is it does that. But with like metaphor and stuff like that, it's all really good. There's an example, and this is just one thing that really stuck with me. There's a guy who spends all this time carrying bricks up to his roof and waiting for the police to show up, and then the police show up, and then he throws bricks at the police cars from on top of his roof where they can't get to him. It's just as an example of just, it's like little short vignettes, all these different things. And it's really, really good. Anyway, I haven't seen any of those either. The big thing, again, and I stress this all the time, as much as I have flirted with my, interest in Judaism and things like that, I am very much um, of the opinion of the, and of course there are a bunch of different uh, ideas in the U.S. from people who have lived, who have never let, Jewish families that have lived in the United States all the time. They never had to have their own, they weren't displaced and all that kind of stuff. What is
Yeah.
that noise, by the way, Ben?
I have no idea. Something going on outside.
Okay. So I just want to make sure it wasn't like a monster.
Well, who knows? It is capital. It is the hellscape of Seattle, after all.
Yes. Somebody mentioned that Clifford the Big Red Dog is the only official American kaiju, which I thought was kind of fun. So, but the thing I was going to say is just that diaspora. I wasn't saying the word because I couldn't think of it. The Jewish diaspora in the United States. Their basic thing is that there's an attempt to say that if you don't support the government of Israel, that you are anti-Semitic. And
because we love our generalities here in the U.S.
Yeah, the point that many of, I mean, especially, I mean, you hear it in the U.S. from people, but the point is that one's disagreement with a ruling party and the way that they're doing things doesn't necessarily mean that they don't like the other people who live in that country, all that sort of thing.
Right.
So, and then I also say, none of my business in many cases. But Macklemore wrote an essay about the conflict and how
I have not read it.
Yeah. And so, well, the basic thing is just, he took a stand, condemning what was happening, by the Israeli government onto the Palestinian people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people after that on my my indie role-playing game forums that I frequent every once in a while were like, I can't believe that Macklemore said this before, and then listed some other politician or celebrity or whatever.
Ah, yes. Why does it take Macklemore to be the voice of reason in American discourse?
Exactly. To quote, I believe Paul F. Tompkins, sometimes I wish he would Mackler less. I can't do it. But
Steven says, Clifford is the only American kaiju. What about Babe the Big Blue Ox?
Hey, what about Paul? Well, as a human, yeah. Hey, Steven, you've got a great point. There is nothing. Babe changes in size. I guess Clifford sort of changes in size too, depending on the needs of the narrative. But
I've never actually seen a Clifford. Does Clifford can Clifford get bigger and smaller at will?
Here's the thing. I don't think he can get bigger or smaller at will, but I think that just because of the way that they draw him, and
they're inconsistent in their scale.
They are inconsistent sometimes in their scale. Yes.
Right on.
I believe so. Speaking of inconsistent in their scale,
artistic things. My butthole.
My butthole. No, I have not been to the doctor for a while.
Oh God.
But I maybe should.
Or do you have something going on without getting too much into it?
No, not okay. Not really. But what I can say is this, that when I was given my sort of the OCD test and stuff like that, one of the things they checked me for was anorexia. Of course, look at me, I'm a corpulent person. But my issues with food, and you know this too, are, I think they're rooted in the autism more than anything, but
it's always been an adventure going out to eat with you.
I can only eat this now. I can only do that, that kind of, those sorts of rules are something that people with eating disorders sometimes put on themselves. And so the thing is that the rule that I have on myself right now is one that I got from my doctor, which is, don't eat too much saturated fat, don't eat too much red meat,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know. And so what I did was, well, I can't have any saturated fats, I can't have any red meat, which is not what they said, but this is just an aspect of my problem, basically.
Right. And are
So
you still on the because cutting down on saturated fats is is good for you. Are you still
yeah,
on that train?
doing my best to maintain it. Yes.
Yeah.
Although, the one thing is that I am now going out to have Ben, when you were in St. Louis, did you go to the High Point? I don't think you did.
The high point.
HI-POINT. It's one of the burger places around here that's really good.
I don't believe so. We went to barbecue, but not burgers.
Um, well, the High Point, there's now a High Point in Edwardsville. And
Ah.
so Jennifer and I have been having the things. And I found out something, Ben. Now I hope I don't get sued by Big Vegan, but I don't think I will. The Impossible Burger is actually less healthy for you than beef.
Less healthy for you.
Yeah, more
Okay.
saturated fat, for example. Um,
Ah.
less protein, more, stuff like that. Like all the things that you want out of a beef, uh, and all the things you don't. There are less things that you want and more things that you don't in the Impossible Burger. Is the basic idea.
Gotcha.
Also, just so that you know, this is oh no, I can't do it. I was going to say something, but it's part of the OCD thing of talking about wrong people and the wrong things that they say.
Wrong people or people who have been wrong.
All I can say is this, that one of the things that I read through was a thread on Twitter. I've decided to do the protest of just calling it Twitter, uh, and
Nope,
continuing
but
to call it Twitter.
yeah, people only call it X in publications when they have to, and
Yeah.
then they follow it up with the site formerly known as Twitter. It's like the
So
SIF is reopening the Cinerama, but they can't use the
mhm,
name Cinerama. It's called the SIF Cinema now. Nobody's gonna call it SIF Cinema.
I had no idea that the Cinerama was closed. Interesting.
Cinerama's been closed for like 4 years.
I remember when I lived next to it at the Virginian. We've talked about this, where I would go and watch anything that was there, just
Yeah.
because of the screen size and all that. And I one time, myself and my neighbor, who at the time was actually subsidizing my apartment for me because I did not have a friend of mine did not have money to live at the
You were
apartment. He
subsidizing their apartment.
well he was no he was paying me.
He was paying you.
He was paying my rent in an apartment complex that he bought. He paid for the apartment next to his for me so that I could live in Seattle because we were friends and he had
Okay.
some money.
Gotcha.
We would go and watch movies at the Cinerama. We saw Bats one time starring Lou Diamond Phillips, and it was just us, no one else in the theater.
Yeah.
I just remember that those were the days, Ben.
No,
Um,
it closed before the pandemic. I don't remember the exact wording of when they closed, but they were like, we need to redo this. We need to fix things. We're closing only temporarily.
it was
And
underperforming.
then it was under and all the crime. And
All the
then the
crime.
pandemic hit, and they basically just decided it was best not to try to reopen it. But now SIF Seattle has purchased it, and is their first thing is December 14th, I believe.
Wonderful. Do you know
And
what
they
it's
are
going to be? Do you
still
know what
going
they're
to
showing?
have the chocolate popcorn. I read what it was. I don't remember what it is. It's not like a Star Wars or anything like that.
RoboCop.
It's a
Um,
Pulverhoven retrospective.
so the one thing I will say is that the reason I thought of RoboCop is that RoboCop video game just came out, and Peter Weller does the voice for it, and Jennifer is playing it and is finding it delightful.
Excellent. RoboCop. That's a movie I should rewatch that I haven't seen in quite some time.
Yeah, yeah. I think Mr. Verhoeven has done some interesting things in his life.
Yep.
What was it? Starship Troopers is another one.
Total Recall.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Showgirls.
That's right. What has he done lately, I wonder? I don't know.
What have you done for me lately, Mr. Verhoeven?
What have you done for me lately, Mr. Verhoeven? I'd buy that for $1. I think I'd buy that for $1. That whole thing, uh, that would fit right in now with the humor. If I'd buy that for $1 wasn't already existing in RoboCop, if someone were to do it now and put it on Twitter, I think it would do gangbusters. Oh, I saw an interesting thing on YouTube. I'm not watching. Oh, I guess I meant TikTok. If someone were to put it on TikTok, it would do gangbusters. But
Gotcha.
I I have been watching YouTube recently. Um, it's my one like cultural touchstone thing,
Yeah.
and there was a have you heard of Temporary Secretary, the song by Paul McCartney off of one of his albums?
Temporary. A Paul McCartney song? I don't
A Paul
know.
McCartney song
I'm
called Temporary Secretary.
surprised. I'm surprised I have not heard the song because I went through a big Beatles phase and hoovered up all the independent albums, but I do not remember this one.
It has a really interesting synthesizer part to it. And some guy found some of the old synthesizers that Paul McCartney used and a couple of other ones and did a synth version of the song. And it's really good.
Speaking of the Beatles, there's actually a new Beatles song, a brand new Beatles song getting released, I think, today.
What?
Yeah, it's called, I think it's called Now and Then, or Now and Later. Can't be Now and Later, that's a candy. Now and Then. It's a song that John Lennon was demoing back, post Beatles, and they had a recording of it. So in 1994, when the three remaining Beatles got together and did the Beatles anthology, so those new songs, Freeze a Bird and Real Love,
Yeah.
they were going to work on this song, but they couldn't get a clean, it was just like from a cassette tape that was sitting on the piano, so they couldn't like isolate John's vocals enough from the piano
Yeah.
to do it. But now Peter Jackson, when he did the Get Back documentary that's on Disney, which is excellent, by the way, if you're a Beatles fan.
If you're not a Beatles fan, it's just a thing that's on TV you don't want to watch.
It's just a thing that's on TV. No, but they came up with a way to isolate vocals using machine learning and AI, and they actually did that with the song that John Lennon was working on. And so Paul plays bass, Ringo plays drums. Now, I saw a short video of it yesterday, and they kept saying it's a first true, and it'll be the last, true Beatles recording. But the impression I got from what Paul was saying was that, yes, George did record a guitar part for the song when they were originally working on it, but I got the sense that Paul re-recorded it using a slide guitar. So I'm a little, I should just go back and look into this more, but I'm a little suspicious of it being a true Beatles recording if Paul I mean, granted, there are Beatles songs where only Paul plays the instruments, right? There are Beatles songs that nobody plays an instrument on. And they're still considered Beatles songs. So who knows? But brand new Beatles song for those who celebrate.
Very cool. I have about here. Okay, so AI, right? Apparently, you know how I used to use Midjourney.
Yep.
And then there was a lawsuit, and I was like, don't want to be party to that.
And then your daughter.
I don't want to support So yeah, and then Betty said something about it. Well, um, the court dropped the Midjourney part of the lawsuit, so they are no longer worrying about that. That is no
So it's
longer a
like
thing for them.
when you say they dropped the Mid Journey as a company or image creation as a thing.
Image. So the lawsuit dropped Midjourney, the company, from the main lawsuit.
Okay.
Midjourney and one other. There's just one company that's still left on it.
Open AI's Dolly.
Maybe it's open. Yeah, I want to say that maybe it's open AI. I could be wrong, but so that's coming back in vogue.
Come back around.
So, but I'm still not doing it because the conversation I had with Betty, still the same. But like I said, I already have my other idea that it's only a matter of time before everything's in there, and then what are you gonna do? Whatever you want. Hey,
Just give up at that point.
But the one thing I wanted to say is that, and the reason I wanted to mark that is because this is somewhat tangentially related. There's a music version of this where you can type stuff in and it makes a song.
Yeah.
And somebody was putting in pitchfork reviews of music, like a pitchfork review of a song,
and making songs out of the reviews.
And then making songs out of the reviews. And while they weren't 100% the same song, they did sound enough like the artist that they were talking about. So that was interesting.
They were using the Pitchfork review to try to recreate the song that the review was about. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Hey, speaking about pretty cool, guess what, Ben?
What's that, Paul?
We are at the end of the podcast recording. So what you're going to hear now, ladies, I know you're thinking,
minutes.
Wait a second, the end? That can't be, right? Well, we are, in fact, going to be playing a full 16 to 17 minutes of me thinking that Ben hasn't dialed into the podcast.
And maybe I'll pull out GarageBand and underscore it.
And I'm not... Oh, wow, Ben. Promises. I might actually listen to this episode. 401.
Episode 401.
The boys make an effort. Ben does a thing.
The reason I bring that up is because there's going to be a Spin the Bottle in December that I'm going to be hosting. And, if GudeLaurance wants to do something for Spin the Bottle...
Hey...
Put that in your lockbox of a brain and chew on it for a bit.
Ben hosting Spin the Bottle. That's kind of incredible.
Oh, I've done it before.
December. Oh. Well, I've done
many
it before.
times. Yeah. We did it together.
But have you done it recently?
Well,
has there been a Spin the Bottle recently?
There's not been a Spin the Bottle recently, no.
Yeah. So that's kind of amazing. Now this is different than the other thing, the non-Spin the Bottle cabaret that is apparently happening.
No, it's the same thing. They're not calling it Spin the Bottle, but it's like Catherine is programming it. Okay. I'm hosting it. Val Brunetto is going to be the raffle queen. Yeah, it's basically the same thing. I don't know why they're not calling it Spin the Bottle.
You should call it Sif Cinema.
Will do. Yeah.
All right. Okay, Ben. So thank you very much. I will talk to you later. And and until then, please keep it wrong.
Keep it wrong, Paul.
And now, here's Paul from the past. What a dummy. That guy. I can't believe it. This happens to me all the time. I as soon as I learn something different, the past me, I'm like, oh, that guy.